I'll ask you actually at the top of the show if I can, Andrew. We saw some remarks there from Scott Morrison, his final valedictory speech as he leaves the Parliament. How do you think he'll be remembered?
Well, as a flawed character, Peter, I have to say, I think he'll get a lot of credit for AUKUS and the initial handling of the pandemic over time. But I think all his gaffes will make him known as one of our more gaff-prone prime ministers, you know, up there with Billy McMahon even, frankly, unfortunately for him. I mean, it's just not a black and white picture. That's what I will say. There was some good and there was some bad about Scott Morrison, and you tacked the secret ministries on as well. So it's a complicated picture. What I will say is that I think that 2019 victory, he and the people around him thought it was all them. And I've seen this mistake a few times. It's never all you. A lot of times it's about the other side too.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think those secret ministries are where he lost me. Let's go to Dunkley on the weekend. I mean, everyone's looking closely at that. I was out in the seat on Friday. I popped out again this morning, and I think it'll be really interesting on Saturday night. I'm watching the PM and the front bench. They're all running pretty hard on this line that the average swing against a government, they're saying, in a government-held seat is 7%. Now, Dennis Shanahan's written about this in The Australian today. He said it's actually closer to 3.5%. It says to me, with this line that's trotted out now in the last couple of days, almost verbatim by the front bench, Labor's really trying to manage some expectations, and that in itself, Andrew, is telling.
Yeah, look, Labor are worried, Peter. I said this on the weekend, and I've had a couple of conversations since which cement this for me. Labor are concerned that they could lose the seat, and I had an MP say that to me this afternoon. However, the Liberals are pessimistic. Now, you get spun by both sides, but I reckon this is pretty good mail in the sense that as things stand, the Libs need just a bit more momentum in the last couple of days, and that can come from any number of things, and they could actually get there. But at the moment, if you're saying, what's your house doing? My house is going with a narrow Labor victory.
I think I'd probably have to be in the same position, although I don't think a lot of people have clued on to the fact they've got a by-election out there. I asked a few people as I got around and they weren't aware they even had one, let alone it was Saturday. So we'll see what happens, as you say, in the last few days. Hey, I am noticing that story today in The Guardian. It's having a go at porkies told by politicians. A lot of focus, though, on the coalition, running into issues like how something like immigration is fought with in the media. They ran out the issue of the foreign criminals, of course. I noticed a Prime Minister in the Parliament attacking Advance Australia for getting out and campaigning in Dunkley. We know, of course, they were instrumental in the Voice debate. Their push in Dunkley is about this foreign criminals issue. Peter Dutton then leads question time with it. Now, that says to me this is a factor in Dunkley, and it also shows that Labor's worried about Advance Australia.
Well, why wouldn't you be? I mean, they've got a lot of money behind them, and they pick on issues which play out in the outer suburbs. I mean, there is danger for the Liberals being too closely associated with a fringe group like Advance Australia, in the same way there's danger for Labor in being too closely associated with a fringe group like GetUp. So while the Liberals can take advantage, of course, of Advance Australia's campaigning, they have to keep their distance. I think that would be wise. But I think, obviously they might make the difference. Certainly if the Liberals sort of win the seat, that could be a discussion point on Saturday night. Having said that, again, I think the Liberals are just going to fall short, but we'll see. I mean, there's no doubt that if there was an alternative result, that would be a major discussion point on Saturday night. They're not out there like Get Up with their campaigners and so forth, but they raise money and they spend it on pretty effective ads. It's been interesting to see Dutton in the House. He's trying to pull these two strands together in terms of cost of living as well. So he's trying to say on the security side, they're not doing anything to apply to get these murderers behind bars. And on the other side of immigration, they've lost control of the system because they're letting 500,000 people in. That's pushing up your rents. That's meaning less housing and so forth. I think the biggest and best message that they've got in their campaign, in this by-election campaign, though, Peter, the Liberal Party, is you can send the government a message and you won't be voting them out. And that is one of the most potent messages you can ever use, because people will go, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I say to the government of the day, lift your game? You know, it's a pretty convincing kind of ad, isn't it?
Well, when I was out in Dunkley, I saw a lot of SUVs, a lot of tradies utes, a lot of trucks and, you know, those US-style Rams and whatever out there. Yes, petrol's biting, of course it is. But I think people are picking up this vehicle emissions standard issue, featured again today in Question Time. And if it's not material in Dunkley, I think it's going to be a big feature leading into the next general election. And I think it's yet another huge own goal from Chris Bowen.
Yeah, well, Chris Bowen's been at the scene of a lot of accidents, and even his colleagues say that. Having said that, the government may come to some sort of arrangement with the car industry before the next election, so it may be resolved after.
Yeah, but do we trust them, mate? Look, this is a problem. Do we trust them?
Well, if they legislate it or whatever, or regulate it, perhaps. But I think Dunkley's really interesting by-election we're covering on Saturday for a number of reasons. I think a lot of people have the view, and I think it's correct, that Aston by-election that we covered a year ago gave the government too much hubris, that result. And that's where they got into trouble on The Voice. And of course, Peter Dutton flicked the switch straight after that to opposing The Voice. So that was a significant moment. This shapes as another significant moment. If they get a bloody nose, the government, will that pull in some of their hubris? If they get too good a result for them in a way, will that mean that hubris returns? So it affects everything in this place and in the body politic, really, this kind of type by-election. I think it'll be a fascinating contest. Now, Peter, I've been on many panels with you now, and I think since the New South Wales election, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2019, I haven't been with you when you've seen a Liberal win. So you must be hanging out for one to finally occur on Saturday night. You might get there, who knows?
Be nice to get a win for the Liberal Party in Victoria. We don't have much joy at a state level. I can't see that changing, so let's hope we get something here on Saturday night. I will welcome you all down to my set here in Melbourne. Good to see you then, Andrew.